Yo, what's going on everybody? Hope everybody is doing well. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite Warframes in the entire game, and that Warframe is none other than the Shadow Pirate himself, Sevagoth. Fun fact, I actually never used Reap and Soul together on Sevagoth until recently. When I first got Sevagoth, I immediately put a helmet ability on him. I definitely missed out on his base kit, which is absolutely cracked out. The Reap and Soul ability combo is absolutely goated. And yeah, today I'm pretty much going to be going over Sevagoth and his kit, as well as my build that I like to rock on the Shadow Pirate. And because Sevagoth is 2 Warframes in 1, that means I will be going over the build I got with Sevagoth Shadow, as well as the Shadow Claws. Having a second form that has its own exalted weapon and its own mod setup is fucking crazy. Let's go ahead and begin by talking about Sevagoth's passive. On death, become Sevagoth Shadow and fight to resurrect him by collecting the souls needed to rebuild his tombstone. Thanks to his passive ability, instead of dying, you just transform into the Shadow. Not only do you transform into the Shadow, who has his own abilities, by the way, whenever you actually transform into the Shadow on death, you'll notice that there is a soul counter in the bottom right. This number indicates how many souls need to be consumed with the Shadow so you can revive Sevagoth. The version of consume you get whenever the passive is activated straight up ignores all armor and health of non-boss enemies, making it a one-shot ability, which means all you simply have to do is land this attack 5 times before the soul counter timer runs out. Even though it's a one-shot on non-boss enemies, it will not work on enemies that have overguard like Eximus units. And while you're transformed into the Shadow from the passive, you can't actually use the Shadow's attacks. The only attack you can use is consume, so you'll have to find 5 enemies that don't have any overguard in order to steal their souls, fill up the soul counter, and revive Sevagoth. A pretty badass passive for a pretty badass Warframe. Next up, we got his first ability, which is called Reap. With this ability, you will send Sevagoth's Shadow toward the direction of whatever you're aiming at with your weapons. The Shadow will specifically follow the reticle whenever you're aiming down sight. The shadows you send out with this ability will scream around enemies, which deals radiation damage to enemies in range, and it also marks enemies with Death's Harvest. These marked enemies will receive damage vulnerability that scales with your ability strength. As you can see right here on my Sevagoth, I got the damage vulnerability all the way up to 109%. The more ability strength you have, the higher that damage vulnerability will go. And to make this ability even better, we're pairing it with the Shadow Haze augment mod. This augment mod increases crit chance from any source against enemies that are affected by Reap or Death's Harvest. And on top of that, when those affected enemies die, a Reap Shadow clone will spawn from their corpse and seek out more enemies, and you can have a maximum of 3 clones, which just makes this ability even more badass. And this is the ability I replaced on my other builds. I don't know why I did that, bro. This ability is so goated. And at this point, if you're gonna replace an ability on Sevagoth, it might as well be Exalted Shadow, because you could just transform into the Shadow with the passive. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I'll figure it out later when I actually want to put another helmet ability on Sevagoth. Moving on though, we got his second ability, which is called Sow. This ability implants a death seed into enemies within range. These death seeds deal true damage over time. However, the true damage by itself is definitely not going to do the most damage, but as the name implies, when you reap what you sow, you can do some pretty big damage. Iconic phrases aside, you can actually pair Sow with the first ability Reap to make it even better. And the reason is because sown enemies hit by Reap are dealt 25% of their current health as true damage, and on top of that, they detonate, dealing 25% of their current health as blast damage to all enemies within range. 25% to true damage and 25% to blast damage that explodes in a radius? Yeah, dude, that's fucking crazy. And to make this ability even better, we are pairing this ability with its new augment mod that we got with the Jade Shadows update, which is called Dark Propagation. This augment mod spreads Sow's effects whenever enemies affected by Sow die. And on top of that, it allows the Shadow to activate Sow on enemies with the Death's Harvest ability. Super crazy augment mod that's really good for doing massive AoE damage over time, on top of the 1-to-1 Reap Sow combo. Shadow Pirate definitely reaps what he sows, that's for sure, especially thanks to these 2 augment mods. Onto his third ability, which is called Gloom. This is actually his helmet ability as well. This ability is a darkness aura that slows down enemies within its range, and while this ability is active, any damage you deal with your weapons or abilities will actually grant you lifesteal, and allies within the aura can also benefit from this ability as well. I use Gloom a lot on some of my other Warframes. If you haven't tried it as a helmet ability, I definitely recommend it. And then we got his fourth ability, Exalted Shadow. If the death well fills to 75% or more, you can then transform into the Shadow. The Shadow has its own unique set of abilities, as well as its own melee focused exalted weapon with the Shadow Claws. So let's go ahead and go over those 4 new abilities we get with the Shadow. The first ability is is called Embrace. With this ability, the shadow can extend its range and pull in enemies with a shadow attack, and as the enemies get pulled in, they are lifted helplessly for a certain amount of time. Next up, we got his second ability, Consume. With this ability, the shadow will actually dash through enemies and rip out their souls, dealing radiation damage and granting the shadow lifesteal. Next up, we got his third ability, Death's Harvest. With this ability, the shadow lets out a big scream, which leaves a death mark on enemies, and those marked enemies receive extra damage vulnerability. Just like regular Sevagoth, the more ability strength you have on the shadow, the higher that damage vulnerability can go. And on top of that, like I said earlier as well, thanks to the Dark Propagation mod, with this ability we can actually get the same effects as so. Then finally we got his fourth ability, Reunite, which simply just reunites Sevagoth and his shadow, allowing you to transform back into Sevagoth. We've gone over Sevagoth and the Shadow's kit. Let's go ahead and talk about the mod setup that I got with Sevagoth and the Shadow. For the Aura mod, I got Brief Respite so I can get shields back every time I use an ability. This is a super clutch Aura mod that definitely keeps you alive. Prime Redirection for extra shield capacity, Umbral Intensify for extra ability strength, Transient Fortitude for extra ability strength. Then I got Rolling Guard so I can remove the status effects applied to me and become invulnerable for a short period of time. Prime Flow for extra energy, and of course I have on Shadow Haze and Dark Propagation, and then I got Undying Will for plus 42% bleed out reduction. Thanks to this mod, I find myself having a much easier time collecting 5 souls whenever the passive activates, and give yourself a better chance of getting off that revive. For the Arcanes, I got Arcane Energize so I can have a chance to get extra energy whenever I pick up an energy orb, and then I got Mole Augmented so I could get extra ability strength per kill. That stacks all the way up to 250 times. As far as the Shadows mod setup goes, it's not too different from what I got before, but there are some slight changes. The Aura mod and the Arcanes are the same, but I actually got Prime Continuity for extra ability duration with the Shadow, and then I got Vigilante Vigor and Fast Deflection so I could have extra shield recharge for the Shadow as well. On top of Prime Redirection for the extra shield capacity, I find these 3 mods on the Shadow very useful for whenever you actually die and activate the passive. On top of that, I got Overextended because I'm not really worried about the ability strength on my Sevagoth Shadow. And then of course I got Blind Rage for extra ability strength and Primed Flow for extra energy. And finally, as far as the Shadow Claws mod setup goes, here you are. Sacrificial Steel for extra crit, Prime Pressure Point for the extra damage, Fever Strike and North Wind paired together so I can get that viral elemental damage. And then I got Shocking Touch plus Volcanic Edge to get radiation. And then I got Corrupt Charge so I can get plus 30 initial combo with these weapons, which just allow them to do even more damage overall. And yeah guys, that's going to be it as far as my Sevagoth build goes. And also, if there's anything I missed when it comes to Sevagoth, or if you see a way you could improve this Sevagoth build and make it even better, feel free to leave those suggestions in the comments as well. I got some footage of me going through the new mission type Ascension. I'm gonna go ahead and let the footage play out. Hope you enjoy. Nah, bitch, you gotta go. Nah, you gotta go right now. I'm talking right now. Nah, you gotta go right now. Get out of here. Yeah. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, from here on out, we're just reaping what we sow. You already know what time it is. Hey, did y'all not hear me? We are reaping what we sow over here. Back the fuck up, dude. What the fuck? That was crazy. They can't even approach me, dog. When they try to, they just die. Oh, we died. Except guess what? We didn't, motherfucker. So, reap destruction. Get out of my way. And yeah, just like that, we are done with this mission type because they're not pulling back up. Y'all ain't got the guts. Y'all ain't got what it takes. You ain't got the resources. You ain't got the reinforcements. And the worst part is you have all the time in the world, man. The capsule's standing still right now, bro. Where are y'all at? Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? Like, what's happening? Bro, the damage is fucking beautiful, as you guys can see. This is awesome. And just like that, we're done. Matter of fact, I'm gonna transform into the Shadow for the one time because I can. Yeah, what's up with it? Yeah. I was on the roof for a bit, but we don't talk about that. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself. Yeah, what? I got Brief Respite. I can do this all day. Yeah, what's up? What's up with it? I'm letting the capsule escape. I'm doing my part in the mission, bro. What y'all doing? What y'all doing? Oh, wait, they're actually realizing? Okay, that's what they're doing. Hold on. Okay. But it doesn't matter what you're doing, because you're dead. Yep. Yep, and the mission's done. Just like that. That was fucking awesome. Let me know what you guys think of Sevagoth and his kit down below. I absolutely love Sevagoth already. And yes, I literally didn't use the Reap Soul combo, you know, his normal kit like you're supposed to, until now. And man, I'm not going back. I don't even need a helmet on my boy. This dude is cooking. What? Before this video ends, real quick, just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel. I appreciate all the positivity and all the kind comments. And yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for me. Keep your head up, stay positive. And with that being said, thanks for watching.